That both Valley and Dowling have their sights set on postseason play. That makes this annual showdown even more important. Channel 5's Jeff Grummer was at the game. He joins us live from Valley Stadium. And Jeff, it sounds like the battle for West Des Moines was another classic showdown tonight.
That's exactly right, Rod. In fact, these two teams have a very rich football tradition, and tonight it got a little bit richer. In fact, of all the games these two teams have played, this has to be known now as one of the greatest. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from tonight's action. And the fans here were doing the tomahawk chop, and it didn't take long to have plenty to cheer about. Here's Jamie Gipple on a 30-yard run on the first play from scrimmage. That set up the first touchdown, 6-0 in favor of the Maroons. But the Tigers came right back. Tyler Peterson 3 yards into the end zone. He's a happy man there, and it is 7-6 in favor of Valley. Valley with another touchdown here before halftime. This time it's Jamie Miller into the end zone, and the Tigers led 14-12 at halftime. But this one went right down to the wire. With less than 2 minutes to go, Jared Elfman hauls in the touchdown. That's the go-ahead score, and Valley led by a score of 26-22. But they left too much time for Dowling's offense. Richard Lowry to Ross Verba. That is the game winner. 1 second showing on the clock. Dowling celebrates a win. The final, Dowling 29, Valley 26.
I thought we were dead. We practice that 2-minute drill every night, and I thought my quarterback did a great job, the receivers did a good job, that we held on the line of scrimmage. It just worked beautiful for us. All that practice on 2 minutes worked out, and if they cancel last play in Valley, something's wrong. That's a great series. It's just a great series.
We just kept together. We won as a team. So I congratulate on my teammates. This guy right here with the catch, baby.
It wasn't because of him, baby. It's because of him.
Rich, your reaction to that last catch. What kind of play was it? How'd you get it?
It was a white flag, and he hit it right on the money. Yeah.
And I say right on the money sums it up. That was the winning touchdown connection. Richard Lowry to Ross Verba. They were very happy. They have reason to be. They win the football game tonight. And as Coach Morrow said, if they cancel this, something's wrong. It's a great, great series. Once again, the final, Dowling 29, Valley 26. Reporting live from Valley Stadium in West Des Moines, Jeff Grummer, Channel 5 Sports.
Fantastic ball game. A nice job tonight, Jeff. Thank you very much. Last week, the Ankeny...
Thousands of Braves fans picked up their tomahawks today and headed for the ballpark. Game 3 of the National League Championship Series moved to Atlanta, and it was a good one from the very first pitch. But not for the Braves. Orlando Merced takes it out of the yard, 1-0 Pirates in the first. But from there, the Braves went on a tear. Greg Olson chops one out to left as the Braves built a 4-1 lead after 1. Then in the 7th inning, Ron Gant and gone. This one is way out. The Braves continue to shock everyone, especially the Pirates. It's tomahawk time again in Atlanta. They win it by a final score of 10-3. Jim Leland of the Pirates is very scared it could be the Braves in the World Series.
I wasn't very proud of the way we played it here and there. We just didn't look like a real sharp team.
And Game 4 will be tomorrow in Atlanta. With a win, the Braves will have a commanding lead in that series. And the other team that also went from worst to first is also doing pretty well. The Minnesota Twins continue to pound the ball in the American League Championship Series with the Toronto Blue Jays. In Game 4 tonight, the Twins have exploded. They lead it now 8-2. That ball game is in the 8th inning. Kirby Puckett has a solo home run. It's been all Twins tonight. Dan Gladden with 3 RBIs. Again, it looks good for the Twins tonight, 8-2. If they win this one, they'll be ahead 3-1. It looks good for the two teams that went from worst to first. And coming up in Sports Extra, it is all football tonight. Okay. So lots of comments from the Hawkeyes and Hayden Fry as well.
Plenty of football. Okay, thanks a lot.
Welcome to Channel 5 Sports Extra. Tonight we're keeping you in touch with a complete look at all the hard hits and close calls in college football. Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us. The Iowa Hawkeyes made the trip to Madison for a game with Wisconsin today, but apparently someone forgot to pack the offense. Fortunately for Hayden Fry and the rest of the Hawks, it arrived just in time to save the day. Now for Wisconsin, the best offense was a good defense. Matt Rogers was intercepted 4 times, including this one by Troy Vincent. Look at him go. 65 yards later, the Badgers grabbed the lead 6-0 in the first quarter. In the first half, the Hawks could only manage a Jeff Skillett 29-yard field goal. It was 6-3 at halftime. It stayed that way until late in the fourth when the Hawks get one more chance. With 4:30 to go, Jason Olenczak picks off the pass, and here's the winning touchdown with 44 seconds to go. Wisconsin native Mike Saunders into the end zone. The Hawks escape with a 10-6 win.
That's a heck of a football game. That's the way football ought to be played. I don't like to live through them as a coach, but I'm just real proud of Dan McCarney and Barry Alvarez, but not as proud of them as the Hawks. We kept that win streak going.
Oh, it felt great. That's why I think that's why people play this game. You can't beat a feeling like that.
It was a good call by Coach, and You know, I was very excited about the call, and I knew it. I thought it would work.
Now the Hawkeyes go to 1-1 in the run for the Roses, and next week the road gets even tougher. The Hawkeyes go back to Iowa City to meet number 20 Illinois. Today the Fighting Illini went up against Ohio State. Illinois grabbed the early lead when Darren Boyer gets in the end zone from 7 yards out. It was 7-0 Illini, but this one went down to the wire. And that's when freshman kicker Chris Richardson nails the 41-yard field goal. Illinois holds on to beat the Buckeyes 10-7. And while it was a bad day for Ohio State, it was downright painful for Michigan State. And here's why. Diving Desmond Howard into the end zone from 12 yards out, 14-0 Wolves. Michigan State's offense may be improving, but yeah, they got a ways to go yet. Michigan State runs away, or rather Michigan wins this one, the final 45-28. Here's a look at the rest of the Big Ten scoreboard. Indiana in a big way over the Northwestern Wildcats. Minnesota, that's the Gophers, not the Twins, beats Purdue 6-3. The Iowa State Cyclones had a well-deserved week off after playing Oklahoma last week. Now next week the Cyclones will take on Kansas at Lawrence. As for Oklahoma, they stepped out of the Big 8 and stepped into Big D for a game with Texas. And in the first quarter, the Sooners featured their new weapon. It's called the pass, Cale Gundy. To Ted Long, 24 yards for the touchdown, 7-0 Oklahoma. But in the fourth, the Sooners give it away. Bubba Jax comes up with a fumble, and he is gone. That was the game winner. The Longhorns upset the Oklahoma Sooners 10-7. Checking in with the rest of the Big 8, in a rematch of the 5th Down Bowl, Colorado only needed 4 downs. They hammer Missouri. Kansas loses to Kansas State. Nebraska in a big way over Oklahoma State. Possibly the Iowa College team with the toughest assignment today was Drake. The Bulldogs were at home today against the third-ranked team in Division III, the Dayton Flyers. Dayton entered the game averaging 41 points a game, but the Bulldog defense hung tough. There's an interception by Mark Simon, but still the Flyers found a way to score. Coming up here, Mike Ramacone blocks the punt, and after he does that, he chases it down, covers it up for 6 points. Drake loses a tough one, 13-0 the final. Also on the Iowa College scoreboard, UNI by 3 over Illinois State. And look out this score. Central beats William Penn 83-18, and Simpson wins, edging Luther. And coming up next, we'll take a look at the rest of the top 25 action today. Some major upsets, but not in Miami. Highlights of the Hurricanes after this timeout. The state of Florida may have to change its nickname from the Sunshine State to the Pigskin State. 3 teams from Florida are in the top 10. All did well today, including second-ranked Miami, and the hurricane warning cut loose today on 12th-ranked Penn State. This one was close early, but 2 huge plays told the story. First, Gino Torretta to Horace Copeland for the touchdown. Miami led big in the third. Then the biggest play of the game. Here's Williams on the punt return, and he will go all the way. This is a record for Miami, 91 yards. The Nittany Lions can't recover. The final 26-20. It was an upsetting day for some of the best teams in college football. Here's a look at some of the surprises and the rest of the top 25 on a roll. And that does it tonight for Channel 5 Sports Extra. We'll be back tomorrow night with a complete look at NFL action, including the Vikings trying to get back on track against Phoenix. And of course, plenty of playoff pitches. Thanks for joining us. For the entire Channel 5 Sports team, good night. The World Series equation for the Minnesota Twins was fairly simple today. Win and you're in. A victory in Toronto this afternoon in Game 5 of the American League Championship Series, and the Blue Jays would be history. And the Twins get out of the gates in a hurry. Kirby Puckett with the solo shot, 1-0 Twins in the first. After the second inning, Jays manager Cito Gaston gets tossed for arguing with the umps, and that's when the Toronto Bats came alive. Joe Carter with the RBI double. The Jays went on to build a 5-2 lead after 4. But here's the key play of the game. Dan Gladden grounds it to third. Shane Mack comes home, and Jays catcher Pat Borders tags him, but with a bare hand. He's safe at home. The Twins then go on to break it open. Kirby Puckett with the RBI single to give the Twins a 6-5 lead. Minnesota carried an 8-5 lead into the ninth, and here is the final out. Roberto Alomar flies out to left. The Twins are the American League champs, beating the Jays 8-5 and winning the series 4-1.
Yeah, we play great baseball. And it's raining out. And I love it.
And the Twins do love it. They win the series. They sweep the Jays in Toronto. They can now sit back, relax, have some fun, and wait to see who they'll meet in the World Series. The Braves and the Pirates are playing in Game 4 of the NLCS right now in Atlanta, and this is a good one right now. It is 2-2 in the 8th inning. We'll have an update on that game in Sports Extra, plus all the football highlights.
Plenty of that today, too.
All kinds of football.
For some reason, that just doesn't work when you tag him without the ball, does it?
That didn't work in this case, and it really cost him.
Still ahead. Don says, bundle up.
Welcome to Channel 5 Sports Extra. Tonight we're keeping you in touch with a complete look at Week 7 in the NFL, which continues to be a season of surprises. Hello again and thanks for joining us. Well, in 1991, there's been a lot of big wins in the Metrodome. But unfortunately for the Vikings, most of them have been in baseball. Today, the Vikings were hoping to change that, hosting the Phoenix Cardinals. And of course, Phoenix players are always ready for the heat, even indoors. And it didn't take long for Vikings to turn the heat up. Rich Gannon hits Chris Carter here for a 42-yard touchdown strike, 7-0 Vikes in the first. Then, with less than a minute to go in the half, watch Rich Gannon get away here. Number 16 goes 16 yards for the score. Minnesota leads 20-0 at the break. Then in the fourth, Alfred Anderson gets some great blocking, even in slow motion. He goes all the way in 6 yards for the touchdown. Minnesota moves its record to 3-4 by crushing the Cards 34-7. The Kansas City Chiefs are red hot after destroying the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football last week. Today's assignment was do the same thing to the Miami Dolphins. And the Chief defense did chop up the Miami offense, namely Sammy Smith, who fumbles near the goal line. And there's Chris Martin. He's got one man to beat. As you can see, that's no problem. The guy falls over, and Martin goes 100 yards with the fumble. Kansas City led 14-0 in the first. The Chief offense also put plenty of points on the board. Steve DeBerg finds Tim Barnett alone in the end zone. The Chiefs hammer the Dolphins today 42-7. The year's biggest surprise has been in the Big Easy, where the New Orleans Saints have been untouchable. And today, the Saints put their undefeated mark on the line in Philadelphia. And this would be a rough one. New Orleans quarterback Bobby Hebert gets knocked out of the game, literally, with a concussion. But backup quarterback Steve Walsh today was good enough. He hits Dalton Hilliard with a 14-yard touchdown. Hey, the Saints are now 6-0. They beat the Eagles today 13-6. Only the Redskins can top that. They are now 7-0, and they did so today in history-making fashion. Art Monk moved into second on the NFL's all-time receiving list with this great 14-yard touchdown grab against the Browns. Cleveland stayed close for a while, but in the end, the Skins are too much. Ricky Irvins breaks loose, 65 yards. He is gone, and the Redskins beat the Browns 42-17 the final. So the Redskins and Saints are the new kings of the NFL Hill, while the San Francisco 49ers have fallen completely off the mountain. Today, the Niners hit rock bottom, losing to the Falcons in Candlestick Park. It was a wild one in San Francisco, and of course, you know somewhere that means Neon Deion Sanders, who's turned in his Brave uniform and made another great return for the Falcons today, 100 yards, taking the kickoff all the way for the score. And in the end, Steve Young cannot bring the Niners back. The Falcons stun the 49ers 39-34. Here's a look at the rest of the NFL schedule. The Buffalo Bills big over the Indianapolis Colts. The Cowboys beat the Bengals today. The Rams, well, they get by the Chargers. And also today, the Oilers get by the Jets in a close one. And we have a final here now in overtime. The Raiders beat the Seahawks. And coming up tomorrow night, the defending Super Bowl champion New York Giants will be on the road at Pittsburgh taking on the Steelers. Monday Night Football coverage kicks off at 8 p.m. And the pros weren't the only ones providing some excitement this weekend. Iowa Hawkeye fans are still breathing a sigh of relief after yesterday's win in Wisconsin. Now, when we come back, we'll take a look at how the Hawks did this week in the ratings game. Stay with us. For the Iowa Hawkeyes, the difference between staying in the run for the Roses and being in the back of the Big Ten pack came down to one play in Wisconsin yesterday. And in case you missed it, here it is. On fourth down with 44 seconds to go, Matt Rogers hits Wisconsin native Mike Saunders, who makes his homecoming a very happy one, scoring the winning touchdown. Iowa wins 10-6, spoiling the day for Wisconsin coach Barry Alvarez, but making Hayden Fry a very happy man.
I'm just real proud of Dan McCarney and Barry Alvarez and all those guys, and but not as proud as I am of the Hawks.
Our kids are gutted, particularly our defensive kids. I mean, those kids played their hearts out, and that's the hardest way to lose.
The Iowa Hawkeyes' win over Wisconsin yesterday may have been a little less than impressive, but it was good enough to move the Hawks up 2 spots to number 15 in this week's AP ratings. Here's a look at the AP College Football Poll's top 10. Florida State stays at number 1. Miami is right behind, followed by Washington, Michigan, and Notre Dame. Florida is now in 6th, with California, Tennessee, Nebraska, Penn State all rounding out the top 10. And there you see the Iowa Hawkeyes in at number 15. This week, it's back home again for the Iowa Hawkeyes as they take on number 13 Illinois. Channel 5 will have that game for you this Saturday at 2:30. Also Saturday, the Iowa State Cyclones are back in action after a week off, playing at Kansas against the Jayhawks. Now, both teams will be looking for their first win of the Big 8 season. One more update here for you in the Atlanta Braves game. In the 9th inning now, it is all tied up at 2 apiece. That's going to do it for Channel 5 Sports Extra tonight. Rod Bodholt will be in tomorrow. Have a good night. At 6'5", 225 pounds, Ross Verba is easy to spot on the football field. But he's not easy to stop. In fact, when the Dowling tight end gets his hands on the ball and a full head of steam, defensive backs can expect some Verba abuse.
Favorite part is catching the ball and running for a good 30 yards, running somebody over. It's fun to dish it out. Those D-backs, you know, they're tough, and it's just fun to get lower than they are and just blow them.
Sometimes, like a couple passes over the middle, like I'll just lob it up there, and like any other guy wouldn't get it. He just uses those big old paws up there and snags them away from it.
And never were those big paws needed more than last Friday night when quarterback Richard Lowry found Verba in the end zone. The result, a last-second victory over Valley.
It was a good win for us, and we needed it coming. When we lost to Ankeny, we needed something to pop back on.
And with the state football playoffs beginning next week, this Dowling team would like to bring home the only trophy missing from this case, and that's the state championship. And certainly that's something Verba's been thinking about for a long time.
I started playing football when I was in 5th grade, and since then that's my goal.
And when Verba sets his sights on a goal, he usually grabs it.
Ross got a high ACT score in the 30s. He's about a 3.7 student. All those things go together to help you be even a better athlete.
Congratulations to Dowling's Ross Verba, this week's Channel 5 Athlete of the Week. Jeff Grummer, Channel 5 Sports.
Thanks, Jeff. That guy loves to play.
What a star.
They'll represent Central Iowa in tomorrow afternoon's Class A title game at the Unidome. Channel 5's Jeff Grummer is live in Madrid, where the whole town is preparing for a pep rally. And Jeff, can you feel the excitement yet?
Keith, it's very exciting here. In fact, it's so exciting I've already lost my voice. Now, Madrid's championship game with Avoha Shelby Tennant will not be until 1 o'clock tomorrow, but here the fun has already begun. They have a pep rally planned for 6 o'clock, and they're hoping that's the beginning of a long celebration. The Madrid Tigers have made a second home out of the Unidome, sweeping 2 playoff games under one roof, including Saturday's 28-26 overtime win against Applington, putting the Tigers in the Class A championship for the 2nd straight year.
We thought we had a good chance of making the playoffs and playing well. As far as making the championship game, I think that's came through a lot of hard work, and our team has improved tremendously over the course of the year, and it's just fun going back. But the championship wasn't much fun last year. Madrid lost to Logan Magnolia, which makes tomorrow's title try mean even more.
It'd mean Tiger pride, mostly because last year we went and we made it and lost, and we know what we have to do to win this time.
And if this time is championship time, it will be a great ending for the Tigers and the town that stands behind them.
The community's really gotten behind us, and it makes it a lot more fun when people recognize what you do.
That's the fun part of it, watching the community get excited as well as just the kids. It's a positive happening within a community, and it's something good to talk about.
And when it comes to school spirit here, seeing is believing. Keith, I'm going to step out for a minute. As you can see, the latest fashion in Madrid. They're all ready to go to the Dome tomorrow. They're expecting a big win and a championship. We'll throw it back to you reporting live from Madrid. Jeff Grummer, Channel 5 Sports.
Jeff, would you mind leaning over a little bit? Let's just hope that you haven't got so caught up in it that you've shaved something into your head. Could you bend over just a little bit?
Well, I'll
there?
tell you what, Keith, it's just the throat that's going. The hair is still there, so we're fine.
Okay, you're not going to be able to lead the cheers tonight, I guess.
I guess not. We'll get one of the signs and throw those in the air, though.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff. Those haircuts are great. The first round in the state. As Channel 5's Jeff Grummer shows us, we're already feeling the magic touch.
The head and shoulders and the eyes, and there he goes, step through. Beautiful move.
Through the years, Magic Johnson changed the game of basketball. Then, in a single moment last Thursday, Magic changed society.
Because of the HIV virus that I have attained, I will have to retire from the Lakers.
And with that announcement, AIDS in the sports world collided head-on. And for everyone involved in athletics, AIDS became a whole new ballgame.
I mean, me, myself, I was in that group of people like, oh, it couldn't happen to me. So, now it just make you realize, it's unfortunate that it had to happen to him, but maybe some good will come out of it. And I think people do realize now that, hey, they can be one of those numbers involved.
And with awareness comes action. As violence in sports continues to rise, so do the precautions.
We don't take cuts and things quite so much for granted. We're wearing surgical gloves more often. And the other thing we're trying to do is we're trying to educate the athlete a little more. We're trying to get some literature out there, some pamphlets, and basically try to dispel the myths and try to tell them the truth.
And because of Magic, more people will be hearing the truth.
There will be a lot more attention paid to this and probably a lot more money put in research because it happened to someone like Magic Johnson.
Jeff Grummer, Channel 5 Sports.
Nicely done by Jeff there. And I think the thing you keep hearing.
Welcome to Channel 5 Sports Extra. Tonight we're keeping you in touch with football finales and basketball beginnings. Hello again, everyone. We begin tonight by taking a tropical trip to Puerto Rico with the Iowa State Cyclones. And after being shot in the back in San Juan yesterday with a controversial loss to TCU, the Cyclones rebounded today and rolled over American University of Puerto Rico. And this one was fun from the very start. Iowa State built a 19-1 lead and coasted to a 108-74 win. Fred Hoiberg led the way with 19 points and set a school record with 7 steals in the game. And Johnny Orr moved to the top of the history books. The coach is now in a first-place tie for career wins at Iowa State. Orr will become the school's leader of the pack in career wins if Iowa State can defeat Maine. That game is tomorrow afternoon. The Indiana Hoosiers didn't have to travel to pick up a win tonight. Instead, they stayed home for a Bloomington blowout against Butler. The number 10 Hoosiers took over from the very start. Freshman Alan Henderson knocks down the jumper, and Bobby Knight's club walked off with a 50-18 lead at the break. The second half was also bad news for Butler. There's Calbert Cheney charging in for the jam. But Butler didn't do it tonight. The final score, Indiana 97, Butler's 73. A busy day in college basketball today, and here's a look at the top 25 scoreboard. Number 1 Duke, no trouble over Harvard. Number 4 UCLA just getting started against Long Beach State. Number 5 Ohio State all over Chicago State. North Carolina beats Towson State. Number 8 St. John's over Drexel today. LSU getting started with UNLV at the moment. And number 12 Kansas was a big winner over Central Missouri State. Also today, number 22 Wake Forest blasts Fairfield. And also on the top 25 scoreboard, we move to women's action. The Iowa Hawkeye women's basketball team tipped off the Amana Hawkeye Classic tonight with a win over Ohio University. 97-52 was the final. Tony Foster and LaTanya Tate each scored 15 points. Iowa will host number 21 Washington in the championship game tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And coming up next on Sports Extra, an annual Florida fight that goes the Gators' way. All the college football after this 30-second timeout. Stay with us. And welcome back. The best college football this season has been played in Florida with 3 of the nation's top 5 teams. And today, number 3 Florida State and number 5 Florida got together in Gainesville for an annual Sunshine State Showdown. And once again, this one was quite a battle, as you can see. And the first big play belonged to Florida. Shane Matthews finds Harrison Houston, who finds plenty of daylight. He goes all the way, and 72 yards later, the Gators lead at 14-3 in the third, but the Seminoles rally late in the fourth. Casey Weldon lobs one to Amp Lee. Lots of Gators around, but nobody touches him. 14-9 is the score. Then with just over 2 minutes to go, it's State with a late drive, but when Weldon doesn't get the ball to a wide-open Kevin Knox, the ball ends up going off of his helmet. It falls to the ground, the drive stalls, and it's a Gator day. Florida beats Florida State 14-9. Continuing our Southern tour, the Miami Hurricanes had their final tune-up before the Orange Bowl, and as usual, the engine was running smoothly today as the Hurricanes blew away San Diego State. And this one included the strangest play of the day. Kevin Williams fumbles the punt, but somehow, with a lucky bounce, he gets it back,
and he's off to the races. 82 yards later, he ends up inside the 3-yard line. Miami did not score on that drive. They fumbled the football away, but just a few plays later, the Hurricanes scored in a hurry. Darren Williams turns the interception into 6. Right now, late in the fourth quarter, this one's just about over, and Miami is leading San Diego State 39-12. It was neighbor versus neighbor in Birmingham today as Alabama met Auburn for Bama bragging rights. And this year, the state's color is crimson. In the second quarter, Alabama freshman wide receiver David Palmer lines up at quarterback, and that's why he did it. He sneaks in from 10 yards out, 10-3 tied. From there, the Alabama defense was tough enough. They shut down Auburn. The Tide rolls today 13-6. Also in top 25 college football today, number 9 Tennessee blasts Vanderbilt 45-0. In Tokyo, Clemson and Duke tied at 7 at halftime. Notre Dame just getting started against Hawaii, and the Fighting Irish already ahead 14-0. Tulsa today gets by SMU. Georgia nips Georgia Tech. And in the Division I AA playoffs tonight, good news for Panther fans in the Unidome. UNI wins it tonight 38-21, and they will play next against Marshall. And that does it tonight for Channel 5 Sports Extra. Tomorrow night we'll have all the details of the Cyclone Shootout in San Juan. We'll also have a complete look at NFL action. Before we go, we have a couple of basketball scores to pass along. In girls hoops, Dowling wins it 70-50 over Mason City. And also in boys action, Fort Dodge beats Urbandale 91-82. Thanks for joining us for the entire Channel 5 Sports team. Have a good night. Welcome to Channel 5 Sports Extra. Tonight we're keeping you in touch with the NFL's chase for championships and the wild dash for wildcard spots. Hello again, everyone. Today, the NFL began its December drive to the playoffs, and the Kansas City Chiefs are hoping not to be left out in the cold. This afternoon, the Chiefs took a 2-game losing streak to Seattle, where the Seahawks are also in the playoff hunt, so both teams were strapping it on tight today. The Chiefs' Nick Lowry set the pace with 4 field goals as Kansas City built a 12-3 lead in the third. Here's the only touchdown of the game, Steve DeBerg to Pete Houlihan, and the lead grows to 19-3. The Chief defense hangs tough all day long, and Kansas City sinks Seattle 19-6. The Atlanta Falcons are one team that's still on the bubble in the NFL playoff picture, while the Green Bay Packers bubble burst a long time ago. The two teams tangled in Atlanta today, and while the Packers are out of the playoff dash, they still made quite a run today. Darrell Thompson breaks free 40 yards, and the Pack led 14-7. Even the defense got into the act. Robert Brown with the interception, but the lineman's dream ends at about the 16-yard line. That set up another touchdown. Green Bay led 21-7 at the break, and as you can see, the Pack's game plan was right on target. Mike Tomczak gets the ball to Sterling Sharp, who beats Deion Sanders into the end zone, 28-14 Green Bay. But then the Packers' luck starts to run out. Charles Wilson fumbles the kickoff. Joe Fishback cashes it in. The game is tied at 28. Then after the Packers fumble a punt attempt, the Falcons get the game winner with less than a minute to go. Chris Miller 16 yards to Andre Rison. The Falcons take it away, 35-31 the final. If the San Francisco 49ers are going to make the playoffs, they'll have to get on the move in a hurry, and that's exactly what Dexter Carter did today, taking the kickoff 95 yards for the score. And this one, folks, was strange to the last drop. The Saints are driving for the tying score, but when Steve Walsh tries to down the football to stop the clock, he drops it. Johnny Jackson picks it up and goes to the 1-yard line, and the Niners add the clinching touchdown and win the game 38-24. San Fran is now 7-6. The Saints fall to 9-4. The Washington Redskins' dreams of an undefeated season ended last week, but as the Skins showed today against the Rams, their Super Bowl dreams are alive and well. Although they did get a little bit bruised today. Still, it was all Washington. Mark Rippon to Terry Orr for the score. Another gray day for LA coach John Robinson. 27-6, Washington wins it. And for the upset of the day, if not the season, we go to Cincinnati, where the Bengals surprise the Super Bowl champs. Mitchell Price finishes off the 78-yard punt return. The Bengals pick up their second win of the season, beating the Giants 27-24. And at 7-6, the Giants may have to call off their playoff plans. Taking a look at the rest of the NFL scoreboard today, the Browns ripped the Colts. It was the Dolphins handling the Bucks. Also, the Broncos over the Patriots today, 20-3 the final. The Bills set down the Jets, and the Raiders win one over the Chargers, 9-7. And Monday Night Football takes a tour of the House of Pain tomorrow night as the high-powered Houston Oilers take on the Philadelphia Eagles. It all kicks off at 8 o'clock right here on Channel 5. A couple of other quick football notes. The Iowa Hawkeyes remain at number 7 in the latest AP college football poll. Miami is still number 1, and Washington is gaining in the number 2 spot. Also today, NCAA Division I AA officials decided that UNI's next playoff game will be played at Marshall in West Virginia. That game will be on Saturday in the afternoon. Coming up next on Sports Extra, we'll take a golf trip and take a look at how the Skins game turned into the Pain game. Stay with us. Golf's famous foursome of Jack Nicklaus, Payne Stewart, Curtis Strange, and John Daly continued their Skins game in La Quinta, California today, and the 14th hole turned into a lot of green for Payne Stewart, dropping this approach shot about 3.5 feet away. Then he drops in the birdie putt for $260,000, and that's the largest single-hole payoff in Skins game history.
You know, it's the biggest money putt I've ever made in my life. It's not the biggest putt I've made in my life, but I'm glad to get on the board.
You'd have to say almost overboard in that one. Stewart finished the tournament with $260,000, while John Daly took home $160,000. Strange won $120,000, and the Golden Bear got the Golden Goose Egg. He finished with no money. The Davis Cup hadn't had a home in France in 59 years until today, and it was quite a welcome home party. In a nail-biting 4-set match, France's Guy Forget beats Americans Pete Sampras to take back the coveted tennis trophy. The victory wrapped up France's win in the best-of-5 series over the United States, and after waiting since 1932 for the Cup, it was quite a scene in Lyon, France today. And that does it for Channel 5 Sports Extra tonight. Keith Murphy will be in tomorrow night, and he'll have a look at Monday Night Football, plus probably a Murphy's Law lesson coming up for you tomorrow. That's it for tonight for the entire Channel 5 sports team. Good night. Las Vegas turned out to be a gold mine for both the Iowa and Iowa State wrestling teams today, as both pinned down championships in the Las Vegas Classic. The Hawkeyes won the team championship with 152 points and crowned 3 champions. Chad Zapital beat the Cyclones' Eric Aiken to win at 118, while Tom Brands won at 134, and Troy Steiner took the title at 142. Iowa State also did well, finishing second with 132.25 points. Torrey Jackson beat the Hawks' Terry Steiner for the 150-pound crown, while Steve Hamilton won at 167. As wrestling season rolls out the mats, the football season officially closed up shop at Iowa State tonight. The Cyclones held their awards banquet at Hilton Coliseum. Among the winners, quarterback Kevin Caldwell was named the Outstanding Offensive Player. Tackle Matt Rayberg was honored as the Defensive Player of the Year. And quarterback Chris Peterson was given the Reuben J. Miller Award for Outstanding Conduct on and off the field. Big George Foreman may not have won any awards last night, but he still took care of business against Jimmy Ellis. In fact, he got it done before dinner. Foreman handled Ellis in just 3 rounds, landing 122 punches before referee Richard Steele stopped the fight. Now, just like dinner, the 43-year-old Foreman is ready for more.
I'm available. I'm only going to be here a year. And then they're going to be talking about me, and it's going to be like the win. I'm gone. They better come on and get this opportunity to get in the ring with the 8th wonder of the world.
He's always a lot of fun, and he's the 8th wonder of the world. I think he has at least $8 million more.
Such a humble guy.
And 8 million meals left.
That's right. Welcome to Channel 5 Sports Extra. Tonight we're keeping you in touch with championship performances and the wild card shuffle in the NFL. Hello again, everyone. The Chicago Bears and Green Bay Packers have been playing since the days of leather helmets. And while the leather helmets may be long gone, the old rivalry lives on. With a new twist, Bear quarterback Jim Harbaugh and former Bear Mike Tomczak have been throwing insults back and forth. And today, Tomczak got in the first jab, hitting Jackie Harris from a yard out, 10-7 pack. Later, it's Harbaugh's turn, connecting with Wendell Davis on a 20-yard strike. The Bears led 21-13 at the break. Then in the third, Harbaugh again going back to Davis, and watch the grab. Nicely done by Wendell. The rest of the day was pretty tough on Tomczak and the Pack. The Bears win 27-13. Along with the Bears, the Lions are hoping to be kings of the jungle in the NFC Central. Today, Detroit was working on its championship drive against the New York Jets. And it's pretty easy to keep pace when you've got Barry Sanders, the little lion with the big play here, 51 yards for the score. Sanders finished with 114 yards and had him cheering in the balcony. The defense also pitched in. Tracy Hayworth turns the fumble into 6 points. And the Lions are still hanging tough with the Bears. They beat the Jets today 34-20. Earlier this week, Minnesota coach Jerry Burns announced his retirement at the end of the season. And the way the Vikings have been playing, well, it looks like the end is near. But tonight, the Vikes were playing hard behind Herschel Walker, who goes 71 yards for the score. The Vikes led it by a score of 10-3. Then just before halftime, Vinny Testaverde brings the Bucks back. Working hard on the inside here as he hits Jesse Anderson, but in the end, the Vikings win this one 26-24. The Kansas City Chiefs are still one game off the pace in the AFC West championship race, and tonight they're very happy to be in that position. That's because the Chargers nearly spoiled the fun in Arrowhead today. Now, Chief fans were ready today, but quarterback Steve DeBerg, well, he was not ready. This pass goes the wrong way in the hands of Donald Frank, 71 yards for the score, and it's 14-0 Chargers. So in the second half, Marty Schottenheimer, well, he goes to plan B, and that is former Iowa quarterback Mark Vlasic, who hits Harvey Williams from 16 yards out. The Chiefs led 17-14 with 3 minutes to go. But this one ends up in overtime where Barry Word spells victory, running to the one, setting up this Nick Lowry field goal. The Chiefs beat the Chargers 20-17. And it was East versus West today as the Buffalo Bills traveled cross-country to meet the Raiders in L.A., and this was a wild one. Jay Schrader to Tim Brown, 78 yards, and we're off and running, 10-0 the score. But on the ensuing kickoff, Al Edwards going the other way. He gets loose down the sideline, and he ends up going 91 yards, and it's 10-7, and the Bills are right back in it. Then with 16 seconds to go, Scott Norwood can win it with a field goal, but he misses it just like the Super Bowl. And Norwood missed 10 points on the afternoon. But in overtime, he gets the 3 that count. 42 yards for the win, 30-27 Bills. Here's a look at the rest of the NFL scoreboard. The Broncos beat the Browns today. Also, the Patriots get by the Colts in overtime. The Giants lose to the Eagles. And now the Super Bowl champs are out of the playoffs. The Oilers stun the Steelers today. The Falcons hammer the Rams. Also, the 49ers get by the Seahawks. And the Redskins come from behind to beat the Cardinals. And tomorrow night on Monday Night Football, the Bengals travel to Miami, but not for a southern vacation. Instead, the Dolphins will be waiting for a Monday night matchup beginning tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Coming up next, it's all basketball from the college game to the pros. We'll have all the highlights. Stay with us. The Milwaukee Bucks may be a slowdown team, but they've certainly had a week in transition. Coach Del Harris unexpectedly resigned, and there was some more bad news tonight. The San Antonio Spurs were in town. And of course that means David Robinson is in town, turning Milwaukee into Mr. Robinson's neighborhood. And he also brought along a teammate named Antoine Carr, who hammers it home on the other end. But the Bucks fought hard in this game. Alvin Robertson ends up with a loose ball, and he drops in the jumper. The Bucks by 5, and they go on to win this one 102-83. One other game on the NBA scoreboard today, the Lakers win, or rather right now in the second quarter, they're ahead by a score of 28-14. Well, we're less than a week away from Saturday night's Iowa State-Iowa game, and that will be in Hilton Coliseum. And the way both teams are playing, it should be quite a battle. But hopefully it won't be a battle like this game in Florida last night. With just over a minute to go, the Florida State A&M game erupted, and the benches cleared in this one. 9 Florida A&M players were ejected from the game. They ended up having to forfeit a wild scene last night. That does it tonight for Channel 5 Sports Extra. Sports Director Keith Murphy will be in tomorrow with Monday Night Football. Have a good night. It's certainly been a fun holiday season for some of the world's greatest golfers. Not only do they get to spend the weekend in Jamaica, they're also competing to win over $500,000 in the Johnny Walker World Championship. We go to Jamaica where they have some pretty big water hazards, but it didn't bother Fred Couples, who sets up a birdie on number 17 with this beautiful chip and gets a fine hand from the crowd as well. He finishes the round with a 5-under par 66. His only bogey was here on 18, but who cares when you win $525,000?
It's a wild feeling. You know, I just tried to relax, and I was glad I got 2 or 3 ahead. And then, of course, I really wanted the par 18 to satisfy a great round. But it's a lot of money.
And Couple set a record with his final round. And speaking of records, Wayne Gretzky did it again last night. We go to the ice in Los Angeles, where the LA King is now tied for second on the career scoring list. And Gretzky is in good company there. He moved past Marcel Dion and now trails only the legendary Gordie Howe. Now we all know that Santa Claus has no trouble swooping down the chimney, but apparently he needs a little bit of help on his slam dunk. And here comes the proof. Ouch! At a college game in Logan, Utah, Air Santa does a belly flop. And we're happy to report that, yes, Santa is all right, and he should be back to work by Christmas Eve, but I think he's going to stick to stuffing stockings this time. As for the cheerleaders that dropped Santa there, well, no presents this year for those guys, and certainly a tough fall for Santa Claus, but we said it was all in fun, and he did get up. He was all right after that, and maybe lumps of coals for those guys.
Yeah, he needs more padding, don't you think? If only he would have had more.
That's right, the real Santa had more padding. So.
Oh, ouch. Don't know if I'll be trusting those guys anymore.
Welcome to Channel 5 Sports Extra. Tonight we're keeping you in touch with the final playoff plunge in the NFL. Hello again, everyone. It may have been the final week of the regular season in the NFL, but for the Kansas City Chiefs and Los Angeles Raiders, it was just the beginning. The two teams renewed an old rivalry today, and next weekend, they'll do it all over again in the playoffs. Today, they were fighting for the home field advantage, and this looked like the same old rivalry. Now, Todd Marinovich got the start at quarterback for the Raiders, and he delivers here, going 27 yards to Tim Brown. The game was tied at 7 in the first. But Chief quarterback Steve DeBerg also loaded it up and let it go 57 yards to J.J. Burdan. Kansas City led 17-7 at the break. Then in the fourth, this one seals it right here. It's Burdan again, and he is gone 53 yards. The Chiefs go home for the playoffs with a 27-21 win. It wasn't the playoffs, but it was sudden death today in Miami as the Dolphins and the New York Jets got together. The winner would go to the playoffs. The loser would be home for the holidays. And all that Dolphin fans wanted this year for Christmas was a victory. But in the first, the Jets played Scrooge. Brad Baxter gets in from the 7-0 Jets. Then just before half, watch Dan Marino here. He finds Mark Clayton, who wrestles into the end zone. The game was tied at 7 at the break. Moving on to the second half, this one went head-to-head all the way down to the closing seconds. Then, with under a minute to go on 4th down and goal, Marino finds a wide-open Farrell Edmonds. The Dolphins lead 20-17. Looks like a victory? Wrong, because the Jets come right back with 2 seconds to go. Kicker Raul Alegre makes his first game with the Jets a great one. He ties the game with a 44-yard field goal. We go to overtime. It's Alegre again, this time from 30 yards out. He may be the most valuable one-game player in Jets history as he kicks the Dolphins out of the playoffs. 23-20 was the final. In Buffalo today, some big Bills were standing in the way of the Detroit Lions' last chance to stay alive in the NFC Central title race, but the Lions proved today they were ready to pay their dues. Now, the Bills had several players sit out this game, getting ready for the playoffs next week, but the Lions' Barry Sanders was definitely one guy on the move. A pretty 1-yard touchdown run here. The game was tied at 7 in the third. Now, this one went down to the wire, all on kicker Eddie Murray's shoulders. The game is tied with 20 seconds left, but he misses this one from 39 yards out. But the Bills had 12 players on the field, so it's Murray from 30. And nope, he misses this one as well. And this game goes to overtime, where Murray goes from the GOAT to the hero, getting the game winner from 21 yards out. The Lions win 17-14 and will win the NFC Central if Chicago loses at San Francisco tomorrow night. The Dallas Cowboys and Atlanta Falcons have qualified for the playoffs and also qualify as two of the biggest surprises in the NFL. Today, both were looking for their 11th win of the season, and of course, more surprises. Alexander Wright on the end of a 102-yard touchdown return. Emmitt Smith, 2 touchdowns in the league's rushing title today. The Cowboys outlast the Falcons 31-27. Here we go with a look at the NFL scoreboard. Some farewell finals coming up. The Broncos win. They'll be at home for the playoffs, 17-14 over the Chargers. The Saints beat the Cardinals. The Browns lose to the Steelers. The Colts lose to the Buccaneers. The Patriots get hammered by the Bengals. The Rams are losing right now to the Seahawks. That game is in the third. One other final to report. The Redskins lose today, only their second loss of the season. They get beat by the Eagles. And there's one more game to go in the regular season as the Bears try to wrap up the NFC Central against the San Francisco 49ers. And that game will be tomorrow night right here on Channel 5. You can catch all the action coming up at 8 o'clock. And a quick look at the NFL playoff picture. In the AFC, the Jets will travel to Houston to play the Oilers, and the Chiefs will host the Raiders. Buffalo and Denver get the week off. In the NFC, Atlanta goes to the Big Easy to play the Saints, and the Dallas Cowboys will play either at Chicago or Detroit, depending on what happens to the Bears tomorrow night. One of those teams will have the week off, and Washington also will have the week off. Well, there's a lot of highs and lows in professional sports, and this weekend, Packer coach Lindy Infante experienced both. The playbook was barely out of Infante's hands yesterday after a big win over Minnesota when he was fired today. Infante had been with the Green Bay Packers for 4 seasons, finishing with a 24-40 record, including 4-12 this season.
It'd be hard to go back to work right away. I think I need to sit back and take a big, long, deep breath and get to know my family a little bit better.
And of course, Bill Parcells has already been mentioned as one of the possible replacements of Lindy Infante. Now, when we come back, a look at the NBA battles, including a bad night for Barkley. And that was a bad night off the court. Stay with us. On the court, he's known as Charles in Charge, but last night he was known as Charles is Charged. Philadelphia 76er forward Charles Barkley has been in a few fights in his day, but last night it spilled off the court and into jail. Barkley was arrested early this morning on battery charges after breaking a man's nose in a fight in a Milwaukee parking lot. There's some final video of Barkley getting in trouble on the court. Barkley was later released on a cash bond. And that's going to wrap it up tonight for Channel 5 Sports Extra.